welcome to post-match reaction to the San Diego Legion versus Rugby United New York. Or if you're from the States, then obviously it's a Rugby United New York at San Diego Legion. The game finished 23-25. San Diego Legion losing by 2 points to Rugby United New York. And one of the things that I talked about pre-game in my predictions was going to be about the cohesion of the two sides, and that San Diego Legion, obviously having been around for an extra year in this competition, I thought would come together much better in that kind of sense. But we actually saw that, especially in that first half, Rugby United New York perhaps had actually had better cohesion, and it helps with some of the players that they've got in there. Obviously, Ben Foden is the name that everyone will recognise, being the ex-England international, used to play for Northampton Saints. But Luke Hume also injected himself well from fullback, with Foden playing at 13, obviously out of position than we'd normally see. Marsh did also run things well from the fly half position as well, and that whole back line worked pretty well. Rugby United New York, or RUNY, as most of us are going to refer to them as going forwards, really did manage to really did spin the ball wide quite a lot, and initially they did have some problems, turnovers, etc. Stopped them making full advantage of that, but I'd say the connectivity between them was pretty good, even though they did make some of those mistakes. The forwards gave them a decent platform as well, but Rugby United, we're not looking at playing it close. They were definitely looking at using their width and their backs, getting players running off Foden, and using their wings. We saw one moment when Wallace Sims, I think it is, had a very, very quick pass on from Ben Foden, but wasn't expecting it, and dropped the ball, and you could see that Foden was not very happy with him at all. This very much is a matter of sort of Marsh, Leonard, Foden, and then with those back three running off them. And Hume showed that he could do that very well. Matayina, who scored the first try for Rugby United New York, also showed that he kept his width well, and managed to sort of provide that options as well off those three guys running things inside the pitch. And that first half was all RUNY. To be honest, San Diego really could not put anything together. I thought that Boyer had a pretty poor game today, missing his man with passes a couple of times in that first half in particular, and then in the second half his box kicking really was far too long, and most of the time really managed to spin it wide and attack down the other side. But let's just run through some of the stuff. I mean, one of the things that Legion were known for last season was having a pretty poor scrum, and that got tested out straight away from the start, where RUNY kicked off, and there was a knock on straight away. Now that was an early tester, and San Diego's scrum has stood up much better in this game than it did last season. So that's a good sign for San Diego. I mean, they had some, I think, according to my stats now, I'm not sure, not going to say my stats are 100% correct, as I did try, but I did try to keep a tally of these kind of things. I reckon that San Diego ended up having about 5 scrums in this game to RUNY's 2. It might not have felt like that during the game, and I was a bit surprised when I looked at my numbers that that's the way round it was. I say I might have missed a couple, but RUNY's handling clearly gave up a number of scrums. And both sides had their ascendancy in this. Both sides generally won their own scrum. I think it was one that went against the head from San Diego, but none of the scrums were particularly solid. I mean, both sides, I say, had their ascendancy at times, going forwards and backwards. So it was a good old battle there. We saw a lot of lineouts in this game. I counted 13 for San Diego and 11 for RUNY. So quite a lot of kicking for touch rather than kicking and keeping the ball in play. And having seen how RUNY managed to run the ball back, you can totally understand that. Hi Matteo and hi Simon in the live chat. Great to see you joining me. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat as to what you thought about the game. Give me your man of the match, actually. That'd be a good one. Who do you think was man of the match during this game? And we can have a chat about that. So please let me have put those in the chat, and I'll bring them up on screen. So as I say, lots of lineouts, lots of kicks to go out on the full. I told you to go out. We saw in the second half that really San Diego needs to leave their kicking to Peterson, because everybody else seemed to be kicking the ball out on the full, or giving poor kicks that were just not chased, not contestable, and giving far too much time for Rugby United New York to play out of their own territory. So there was that. I lost count of the number of penalties, but we'll get on to that later. Both sides had one yellow card each. So let's just run through what happened in the game. So I said initially there was that scrum, and we saw that RUNY was trying to play with lots of width. Now I thought that was going to be a mistake, because we saw yesterday with Toronto trying to play with lots of width, being the expansion team, they didn't have the connectivity within the side. They made far too much errors, and we saw a couple of those early on by RUNY, but they got into their stride much better. The San Diego State passing was poor, and that meant that RUNY managed to get themselves a line out more, which sucked in players and then spun it out wide to Martina. Now, he has a sevens background. In fact, both the wings for Rugby United New York had a sevens background. It was interesting to see some of the chats during the game, people saying, hey, Rugby United New York are trying to play this in a kind of like sevens style. I think basically what we saw here was it was a dry game, good conditions, and yeah, they tried to keep the ball alive, because they've got a set of backs that can cause some damage. Calling it sevens style, I'm not really so sure. I think that was basically from a lot of people who've been watching European wet weather rugby recently. And if you watched the game yesterday between Houston and Austin, that was a wet weather game. There was lots of kicking, and it was a different style of game. So you're going to see the teams trying to adapt to the conditions that they had. We saw San Diego twice go to the corner after that, after they'd gone 7-0 down, and I thought that was a real bad choice. I think they needed to get some points on the board, settle their nerves, and get that scoreboard ticking over, which is what they did in the second half. RUNY also turned down 3 points, and again failed to get over the line when they kicked to the line out. So eventually they did, on a second attempt, they did manage to get a penalty, kick to the corner. They had Foden hit a sort of a half break, release the ball, and they went over in the corner. Wallace Sims this time. So both wingers got themselves scores out wide in that first half. Both, I say, with sevens background. There were a couple of knock-ons and stuff, deliberate knock-on stuff there that you thought could have given yellow cards, but on around that half-hour mark, one of San Diego players got caught off running back from offside. The ball was rocketed into him in a pass, and I think it was a bit harsh to see him get yellow carded. But that happened, and then very soon afterwards, holding on to the ruck, and the ball was knocked over the sticks for a 15-0 lead by RUNY. So that was about 34 minutes in. Still under with a player down. San Diego managed to come back actually straight away after that penalty. The Rugby United New York couldn't clear their lines from the restart. The box kick got charged down, and which then they then gave a penalty soon after that as they struggled to reclaim and get themselves out. Again, we saw San Diego kicking to the corner for the line out. They dashed away, and eventually Boyer managed to snipe over near the post, making it 7-15. They really needed that score before half-time, because they'd been under the cosh. They hadn't really managed to get anything together, and they turned down points when they had the opportunities. I mean, it really was a poor performance by San Diego in that first half. Then, if we At half-time, though, we saw Rugby United New York really change their tactics when they came back out. We saw San Diego really change their tactics when they came out. A lot more pick and goes, and as soon as they got the opportunity of points, they kicked the threes, and we saw them start to claw back that gap through the boot of Peterson. He took 43 minutes. He knocked through a penalty. RUNY got some territory, but again I think they were trying to go for the corner. They didn't actually, and when they could have taken points, and they came away with nothing. San Diego knocked over another penalty, and suddenly it was 13-15, and and San Diego were looking like the better side in that second half. They then took the lead just after the hydration break at 60 minutes. A great break from Peterson, and he really should have released his winger outside him, but he looked to his right rather than his left, saw that he had his fullback with him, but he was covered, and he held onto the ball for too long, and he got taken down. They did get 3 out of that on that 60 minutes, and they did take the lead at 16-15. San Diego playing much better in that second half, a much better style of rugby in that second half. And then New York got themselves a yellow for repeat offending, which is what was on that 61 minutes. So you've got to say that, and at that point you've got to say things were looking really up for San Diego. They'd just taken the lead, they had a man advantage, it all looked to be going their way. But then we had a couple of long box kicks by Boyer, which really put his side under pressure. Let's just see if Patrick is available to join us, and then I'll run through the last bits and then get his point of view on some of this, of what's been going on. But say we had that long box kick. The ball was spun wide, and you had basically Rugby United New York running it back on the opposite side. Hi, Patrick. Just running through the last bit of the game. And
hello there.
Opinion on how things have been going. So I'll just run through the last sort of 15 minutes or so. Boy, was long box kick. It got spun wide, which allowed RUNY to run it back down the other side. They then got a penalty, kicked 3, took the lead, and you've got to say, and Rugby United were suddenly were back in the lead. We then saw San Diego on 70 minutes again turn down 3. I thought they were perhaps the wrong option, but they went for the corner, spun it wide. Peterson bashed over, and suddenly they're 23-18 up. Looked like they had the game in the bag, but then it all went wrong for them in that last 6 minutes. Rugby United New York got down into that 22. I'll just finish off the game, and then we'll go through and ask you your best points. And they were pushing against the opposition line. We had
and there was the intentional knock on right at the end there.
And we had the intentional knock on. Player comes out, and intentional knock on, penalty try. You've got to say, hey, yes, there are players outside you. You should have just let the try happen. It would have been a hard kick, and it could have been a draw rather than a loss. But no, he ran out of the line. Intentional knock on, 7 points. He goes off the pitch, and San Diego never really came back from that. So it finished 23-25.
Yeah, exactly. My impression, watching the whole again, watching it all from Tierney's, it looked to me like there's a lot of hesitation on both sides. Is that the way that you were reading it? That both sides were like a little hesitant to really do something explosive. I mean, that's the way I read it here. But I'll defer to larger cast of match watching opinion there.
For me, RUNY was spreading it wide, were causing San Diego problems. San Diego really struggled to break down that New York defense. I can only think of one real big clean break, which was Peterson's, which he then should have passed. Other than that, RUNY's defense was, especially for an expansion team, they had their cohesion. They didn't fall off their man. And whenever San Diego were trying to bash it up through the midfield, they just weren't getting any change out of it. I think part of that was down to Boyer. I wasn't impressed by Boyer's service today.
I saw San Diego. What I saw is their best gains right on the right.
Went to grass, but apart from that, RUNY just ran it all the way back and just put them straight back under pressure. The game management from Boyer, for me, really was lacking today. Where I think RUNY did a much better job around that game management side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see, we've still got the one game, Seattle and Glendale to look at, replay of the championship game from last season, and I expect that to be a bit more explosive, and I expect that Tolkien and Keys and the rest of the RUNY, well, both the RUNY and the San Diego coaching staff, to be really sitting down and because they're both going to have to be facing them real soon, and in the case of RUNY, in both cases, on their home grounds. So they squeaked out this one, and they'll be glad to get that win, but everyone knows they've got a lot of work to do. So
we're talking about an expansion side here. This is the first ever competitive professional game that they've played. Sure, they've had their warm-ups, but to me, to come away with a win against a side that made the playoffs last year is a really good start for them. I don't think we should be in any way putting them down here. I think from a New York point of view, I'm impressed with their start.
Yeah, to squeeze this one out, definitely a smile on their face for tonight, and then tomorrow morning they wake up and get back to work. Get back to work. So.
And it's good they've got things to work on. If they played the perfect game and just beat San Diego by 2, then we'd be worried. They need things to work on. Having 5 games on the road to start off with is a tough ask. So getting that first win under the belt will be fantastic for morale. The other guys who have got a similar situation, you've got to say Toronto Arrows, have a totally different setup. They've got 8 games on the road and they've lost their opening one. So it's going to be much harder for them.
I saw that match too, and they looked uncertain. The Arrows, I mean, and so someone because and I remember from this time last, the beginning of last season, it was San Diego that started off weak and started off weak, in the forwards. Their scrummaging was terrible, and so they had obviously had to revise that, and did it well enough to, as I say, get make the playoffs. But as I say, both coaching staffs and frankly all of them know that a slightly different approach needs to be taken.
Yeah, I think for RUNY, good work from playing their width. As the players get used to playing with each other, that's only going to strengthen. For San Diego, you got to say the big positive was their scrum. Their scrum held up today. Sometimes it had the upper hand, sometimes it didn't. But compared to last year, where I think they talked in commentary, they said they gave up something like 3 penalty tries in one of their early games. So clearly that was there was a problem there. Yes, the scrum's a good thing. I think for San Diego, the big thing is going to be game management and how do they get those 2 dangerous wingers involved in the game, because they just didn't get to play today.
It just did, and we would have noticed that. They would have been sparkling all over the place, and there just was no. I mean, I was jotting down. It was good defensive line, both. Both. I mean, before halftime, I wrote down both sides seemed hesitant, and again, that I wrote. I jotted that down before halftime. So, and it seemed to continue that way.
I think that's harsh on RUNY, to be honest with you. I think RUNY were trying things. But for San Diego, I think they didn't adapt. They didn't realise quickly enough that they weren't breaking the gain line. And if you're not breaking the gain line, you have to take all the points that are offered. So it's a real problem for them. Is going to be lack of leadership on the pitch, because it took the coaching staff at half time to change that. Big takeaways for San Diego are positive scrum, lack of leadership on the pitch, and how do you get your ball out wide to those dangerous wingers and win it in space? Because those are my 3 takeaways for San Diego.
Yeah, and what do you reckon are the and for RUNY? I see them. As an aside, I see a lot. People were saying, what's their nickname? The name Roosters keeps on popping up in comments. So maybe they'll take it, maybe they'll not. But I've seen that. Splash. In certain commentary there, at least. But what?
I think we're going to be just like Nola. Nola, I think we're going to stick with RUNY. It's going to be how they're going to be known, because Rugby United New York is just too much of a mouthful. But for me, again, their takeaways have got a decent scrum, and they've used decent width. I think they're going to need to have that ability to do that pick and drive a bit more. We didn't see that from them at all today. And when San Diego started doing that at the beginning of the second half, they got a lot of change out of it. So I think a lot of work. So I think their work-ons are going to be around their forwards, and perhaps some of the wingers expecting the ball. You've got 2 guys with 7s experience out there. If you again give them space, man on man, they're going to cause problems. But they need to be realised that when Ben Foden's going to tap it on quickly, catch it, don't drop it.
Yeah. What did you think of? I keep on calling him the leprechaun. Cathal March, the fly half. Is he up to the task? Do you reckon? I mean, for what you were seeing there,
I think he had a solid game. I mean, when he's got that centre combination outside him, they can be. He doesn't need to be that guy taking it to the line and making breaks. He can be. He kicked all his kicks. I don't remember him kicking it out in the full once. I thought he had a solid game, and definitely has got some.
He did
something.
Some of his. He did miss one of his conversions, though, didn't he?
Oh, sorry, yeah, he did miss. But to be fair, those tries were both out wide.
Yeah.
Again, the other thing about them is also going to be decision making as to when to take 3 and when to go to the corner, because I think they left points out there today.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure that'll occur to them. Now, did they? I didn't get to see again. I was, I say, watching in uh, a semi-noisy pub. Had did they put in on their bench? They had what was his name? The number he had number 24. The Seniolis. I'm forgetting his name. I just remember seeing him. I did see a.
Lipscomb?
I'm sorry?
Lipscomb?
No. Two S's. Suni.
No, for RUNY, there's no one like that on the bench. So Brown, Parry, Hamilton, McDonald, Houston, Walsh, Smith, and Lipscomb were the bench for RUNY today.
Smith. Suni something Smith.
Right.
Yeah, because I did remember seeing him. I was at one of their scrimmages at Iona College, and he was a power back in something close to, but not quite in the Jono Lamu model, big and both big and fast. I don't think they put him in the game, but everyone that I remember being there, I remember seeing, he had the potential to be an impact player. I didn't think they switched for him tonight, but he certainly could be. Actually having seen him, on the pitch in not quite a game, it was a scrimmage situation, but let's see if at least they get him in the next match, because I do think he has that explosive potential.
Yeah, I'm not sure that either team really trusted their bench today. And I think that shows you the depth of the squads.
Right.
I mean, as all teams will be carrying a couple of injuries, and that happens all the time. But I think they're going to lack that. Lack that. I think they both lack that kind of, that depth off the bench. Right then. Well, that's that game. I will be. We're 3 games in now. All the games have been within a score. I think. So it's been very close, and I got to say this afternoon's game. Well, the
at least
is
a losing bonus, a losing bonus point. In other words, no one got so far got 0.
So everyone's got points so far, which helps. But they've all been interesting games and tight, gone right down to the wire. This afternoon we see a repeat of the final from last year. Glendale Raptors going to visit Seattle Seawolves. I'll be live straight after that game as well. So join us.
Of the 4, I think that's going to be a real cracker.
It's definitely going to be the highest quality game. We got Seattle had very little turnover, so they're going to be good, and the Glendale always have got quality players. So Patrick, why don't you let people know where they can get hold of you and have a chat about rugby on social media?
Well, the best place to get me, I have a Twitter. I mean, I don't normally do rugby on it. My Twitter handle is HV Debate Union, because I had a project called the Hudson Valley Debate Union. And let me see. Well, if that's the easiest way to get to me right now, and I'll send you. For those who are watching at home, I can punt over any other contacts that all the other contacts I have.
Cool. And obviously, I'm at DrivingMaul on Twitter. You're watching on the DrivingMaul YouTube channel, so please do subscribe, like, and all of that kind of stuff. I'll be back in, probably about 5-6 hours with the post-match reaction to the Glendale Raptors at Seattle. Have a great day, everybody, and enjoy whatever you're watching.
All right.